availability or Ryan Zaremba going to be
Yeah.
back?
Yep. There's a little illness.
Yeah. Harper Bent? Update on-
Skating. Still a couple weeks, I would say. Safe. He's been able to go out and do a little bit more, so no contact stuff yet.
Ty Hansen. I feel like we haven't talked about him enough. Obviously, you talked about him Friday after that play, but I feel like that OT goal maybe kind of exemplified his play. Strong in the defensive end, and then goes on the other, side.
Well, for sure. I mean, he's a competitor. Like I said, he's a winner, and I think the determination on that play obviously made a strong play to knock their player off the puck and then start the rush and stay with it. That wasn't an easy play at the end, right? Because I was thinking, oh my God, if it goes over his head, it's a 2-on-0 the other way. But again, that's 3-on-3 hockey, right? But he wanted to win, and it showed in that play. But yeah, he's been really good. His competitiveness is off the charts every day. He sets that example, but he's been doing that since he's got here, and then you throw in some of the, the abilities he has. He's got, he's on our power play. Him and Gleb's play a ton of minutes. Those guys don't ever seem to get tired, right? But yeah, he's been pretty consistent and very reliable, and he's had a great start.
Him and Cleves as a defensive pair, what have you liked about those guys? Both, again, I think both of them have been strong offensively and defensively, even if Cleves isn't, getting his name on the score sheet. He's involved in those plays.
Well, they're both righties, so, I mean, last year Ty played a lot of offside. He played the left side a lot, so it wasn't like sometimes that's hard for D if they haven't done it a lot. I think D should play both all the time because you get in those situations, but no, they just seem to complement each other, and Cleve's a little bit more the defender. Not that Ty's not, but they seem to play well off each other, and they've been a good pair. And sometimes they play with different guys when we have 7, or if we cut down, so they can play in a lot of different situations with different players. But yeah, they've just been good, and they can play big minutes. I mean, they're not easy minutes. They're killing penalties. They're on a power play. They're playing 5-on-5. They're playing against some of the team's best players. So those are not easy minutes. So they've handled it well.
Has Ty become a stronger player defensively this year, or is that a continuation of last year? I feel like he's made a lot of big defensive plays, maybe, and that stood out. The Gopher series, I thought he was real good shutting them down, foiling some big plays, and then obviously Saturday.
I think we saw a lot. I think we saw a lot of that last year too. I mean, obviously, I think getting a year under your belt and understanding college hockey, this league, right? Helps all those guys. But no, I just think it's a maturity thing, and he's taken on a bigger role. I mean, maybe last year, as a freshman, whether it was vocally or leadership-wise, this year he's wearing an A, rightly so. He leads by example, and he's playing that way. So again, when you have your leaders playing that way, everyone should follow. And you have to be around him every day because he doesn't practice any differently. He hasn't for the year plus that we've had him. Every day he's ready to go, and he sets the bar competitively. And obviously he works hard on his game. Like, he works hard on it. Like, it's, whether it's off-season training and in season and working on things, and that's how you get better. So we're seeing that this year, I think. And hopefully we'll continue to see that even get better. I think it's grown a lot. I think since those two have been together, but just I think his confidence, I think his poise with the puck. He hasn't played much on the power play, but we have 3 power play units, and even from the beginning of the year till now, I mean, he's in practice, just way more confident on that part, on the power play part. But, you know, he's big. Like, he just, you know, you see him. He's hard to knock off the puck. You know, he's got the long reach. Probably would still like, I want him to be a little bit harder because I don't want guys to, you know, go on his side or in the corner. But he's getting better with that. But just, again, it's the same thing. You know, those every player, you want to see them hopefully keep growing. Some are going to grow a little bit. Some are going to grow a lot. I think it's just been a steady climb for him. And I just think you're seeing a player that's still scratching a little bit of the surface of what he could be. But he's been really good for us. I think the last month especially, I think he's, you know, played really well.
Takeaways for you from these last 4 games. You talked 2 weeks ago about it's going to get steeper, and it's not going to stop getting steeper. But how do you think your group handled it? They're going 3-1?
Well, I'm very happy that we went 3-1 going into those places, you know, 4 tough games on the road. You know, certainly we were in a position to make it 4, but, you know, we ran into a pretty good team. I think defensively, probably the last 3 games, you know, we've seen some things that we haven't seen much of early. North Dakota, especially with their D involvement. We know that going in, you know that Livanovich and, you know, Veerhoff and Weeb are going to, they show up on tape a lot, you know, especially down there. But, you know, so I thought we didn't win enough battles. We kind of got out of maybe what we were doing earlier, and we were getting into, we need a little bit more support with the first battle. And we're kind of got to get back to that, where I think early in the year we maybe weren't thinking about it as much, but we didn't play teams that did some of those things either. So the structure doesn't change in the how you need to play down there. You just need a little. Sometimes you got 2-on-1 people, not just 1-on-1 people, and sometimes it's easier said than done. But so we're just kind of focusing on that. And I think the games, like, you know, you can go back to Bemidji Friday. D-zone structure was not very good, so that's part of tracking, getting back in there, and then you know, I got better Saturday. You know, Friday Minnesota, we didn't give them time. We got to our game, you know, and stayed on top of them and got pucks out, and, you know, they didn't have a lot of offense. Saturday they were better, right? And, you know, we're going to keep seeing that because teams in our league are really good, and it's no different this weekend. So, and then on the offensive side, just getting more pucks. We got to get more pucks inside the dots. Our D have struggled to get pucks through. Forwards have to win races to pucks to keep pucks alive. But we're close, but we're not there. So again, just things we're working on to try and, you know, get better. Hopefully, you know, those things will get better. Like I said, I don't think anything's really far off. It's just some tweaks, and video helps with that, and practice, and hopefully we're better this weekend.
I was talking to Brett yesterday, and he brought up this matchup this weekend and that top line. He brought up Connolly Fontaine as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was here for their senior year, that championship run. And he talked about, you know, watching other teams try to find ways to stop them, and how difficult it was. What do you remember about, you know, teams week in and week out trying to find ways to stop that line, and so often not finding ways?
The Conley line?
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. That's a long time ago. You know, I've talked to Zam and Max and Shoggs. I said, there's going to be games where teams are going to nullify you for 2.5 periods, but they have that ability to make a play or 2 plays and change a game. And that was all Jack. Like, there was games I remember when Jack, like, sometimes you didn't know he was out there, and all of a sudden he makes 1 or 2 plays and he ends up with 2 goals or a goal and assist, and they're important plays, right? And, you know, Mikey had that toughness. Fonzie was more of a, you know, goal scorer, you know, but they just complemented each other, but they had that ability. And, you know, we saw it at the national championship game, right? We didn't have last line change, so, Michigan's matching up, and that's where you need other lines. And we got, that year, Brownie and Schmitty and T.O. that carried us in that game, right? Even on the power play, our power play was clicking, and, we had 7, 8, 9 opportunities in that final game, and it wasn't as effective. But, so give teams credit. And they're going to figure it out, and there's going to be games no matter what you do. They're not going to be putting up 4 or 5 points as much as everybody wants that, But they're smart players, and they'll figure it out, and they still have that ability, and they're dangerous to, to make that play, or whenever it is in a game, to score a goal or change a game. And that's very similar to what those guys were. But it's fun to watch. But we got to get some other guys, producing. And I know that's the talk. Oh, they're only a one-line team. I don't agree with that. But right now it is, because of the start those guys have had, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm not breaking them up. I know that. So, I know you asked the question on Friday, North Dakota played physical on them. How do you think they did? I said, look at the score sheet, right? So, at the end of the day, that's what it is. Saturday, yeah, it was a tougher game. But again, we're up 1-0, could have been 2-0, the power play or the shorthanded chance, and, who knows where that game goes from there. But it's going to happen, but we need some other guys. There's no question.
What can you say about the start Max is off to, not just this year, but in his career, 47 points in 33 games? We're taking some time, last time that happened to the Bulldogs.
So you think we missed him last year in 10 games? Well, you see what kind of player he is, but his determination in how he plays the game is some of the best I've ever seen. Like, he wants to be in those big moments. The guys that I think are your best players want to be in those moments. They want to make that difference, right? Every shift. And there's guys that talk about it, and then there's guys that go do it. And he's a guy that does it, right? And again, that's why he's having the success, because he's very determined. He's a really good hockey player. He's kind of got that fearlessness to him. There's times I think he's going to kill himself, right? Puts himself in some spots. I did not like the hit that they had on him on Friday night. I thought it was a dangerous hit, but that wasn't his fault. But his determination is second to none, in my opinion, which separates just his never quit, right? Never quit.
Talking with Brett too about the history that these teams have had since the COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
They played like 14 times out of like 40 games.
Mm-hmm.
Of UMDs were against out-state during one stretch. This is the last year that you're guaranteed to see them 4 times a year. Kind of your thoughts on what this rivalry become in these two games?
Yeah, we have played a lot, It's like needing an apartment in St. Cloud for a while, I think. But no, it's been great battles. Both teams played very, very similar. That's why they've been really, really – there's been some really, really good games. I just go back, a couple of years ago, that the playoff battle, that was fun. It was hard. The refs let everybody play, and, it was just the way playoff hockey should be. And again, I think his team is very underrated. And I think I said that to you guys early in the year. And it's not a surprise that they're where they are, and they've scored a lot of goals here in the last 4 or 5 games. Their power play's going. They got some good goaltending. They got some new goalies. They returned a lot of guys too that I think were really valuable players for them, and they're older, and they've added some good pieces. So I don't care, you beat Western 5-1, that's a statement to me.
With that result and how their season has gone, there's so much focus, at least externally, on these past 4 games that you played on the road. Is that as competitive as a group as you have, is there a need for a reset and a conversation, or is this a group that doesn't need that conversation?
Well, I think there's a reset. I think what we talk about is don't turn 1 into 2, just like we did when we lost to Augustana, and we rattled off 5 wins. Do I hope it happens again? Absolutely, but The thing we keep talking about, like, you're in our league, and we got a lot of guys that haven't played in our league. We got some freshmen that haven't played in our league. We got some transfers that haven't played in our league. And, what I reminded them, like Saturday night in our league, or even Friday night, they're hard games. Every game is like a playoff game, and you have to be prepared for it. They're harder than the non-conference games that we played. It's just a different vibe. And, Saturday, like I said, I think North Dakota was a very determined team. Again, they don't want to lose twice on their home ice, and what's coming. You can talk about it, but you got to go through those things, right? You got to go through those things. So at Saturday, I just said, hey, see how we respond, but this is how games are going to be. Doesn't matter who you're playing, what night you're playing, they're going to be harder than we've played, and it's going to get better. Hockey's going to get better. Everybody's going to get better, so we have to get better. And, yeah, I don't think there's a reset yet. I mean, hopefully this group doesn't like losing, and they can respond, like I said, similar to what we did last time with a win on Friday.
It was about a month ago, you said you didn't like some of the penalties you guys were taking early in the season. The last 4 or 6 games have been much better.
Yeah.
Happy with the discipline?
Yeah, we went from like 13, 14 minutes a game to low 9s. So, again, when you look, I've looked at that over the years, right? And the best teams are usually your least penalized teams. And Denver was at it for a long time, even Western, right? So, I think it's been good. Better, for sure. And not giving teams 5, 6 power plays, 2 or 3, is pretty normal. But we got to keep that part of it going, because these games get emotional. And you know what? And there's games and points during the season where things aren't maybe going your way, or there's frustration, and that's where you got to keep your head right. And we're just talking a lot about controlling sticks because they're tighter on the stick. The slashes and the hooks to the hands, and the physical penalties are going to be the physical penalties. But I think everyone's adjusting, much better to the kind of standard we are trying to have, at least in our league. It's not going to happen across the country, but so we just had a conference call yesterday, and I think that's kind of the sentiment that players learn, and there's still going to be those penalties, but I think it's getting better, and hopefully our guys can keep the number of penalties down, because I think it's a huge factor in a game.
Broadening up of that, how crucial are kind of the power play opportunities this weekend? St. Cloud State's second, you guys are 8. So
Stay out of the box. I mean, again, they've played 8 of their 9 games on the big sheet. There's a big factor there, right? It's tough to defend on that big rink. Power, like if you're killing penalties, and it's a major advantage on the power play, especially for a team that uses it all the time. Doesn't mean they're not going to have a good power play in a smaller building, but their power play getting off to the start probably puts a lot of confidence in that group. So again, the importance of not taking bad penalties and limiting those opportunities is going to be critical. I would think they're saying the same thing. I'm not sure they want to, maybe give our top unit a lot of opportunities either, so I think that's critical for both teams. That's it. Good. Yep.
Two of you have been off to a pretty good start here. Plus 11. I know not everyone values plus minus, but plus 11, second only to max in the country. Defensively, what's worked for the two of you as a defensive pair? I think not only shutting down other teams, but also helping contribute to the offense. Please, you want to start?
I think just we play a lot with, the top line with Shogs and the Plant brothers, so, that helps a lot. I think Ty and I played a little bit last year too, so we kind of have that chemistry. We're both smart players, and we take a lot of pride in just defending hard and making sure we take care of that part of the game before we jump up and try to make plays in the offense.
Yeah, I think like you said, playing with that top line helps a lot. They're good in both the offensive zone and the D zone. I don't think they get a ton of credit for what they do in the D zone as well. They're pretty reliable down there, and yeah, just getting chemistry with Klebs here, and like you said, played together last year a little bit too, so that helps, and just keep on building. And yeah, I've liked the way we started.
Coach kind of described the dynamic between you, Ty, you're more offensive. Klebs, maybe you're the defensive guy. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Nick Wolf, Scott Perenovich duo back there. Wolf used to always say he had to babysit Perenovich. Klebs, I don't think you've had to babysit Ty. Ty, maybe tell me, what are the things that Klebs does when you guys are out there that helps contribute to the offense, helps fuel this offense, that even though his name's not landed on the score sheet?
I think it starts with just his skating ability. He's really shutting down guys in the corner, and even offensively too, moving at the blue line, getting pucks through, kind of just being another wave of offense. I think he doesn't really get a ton of credit for what he does offensively, but he's a big part of what we've been doing.
Please, what stood out to you about what Ty's able to do defensively out there?
Yeah, I think just his willingness to join the rush and his compete to, keep finding ways to get up in the rush and be the fourth layer of attack, just get pucks to the net. Those are probably his two biggest assets, I think.
How do you feel the team? Coach, you mentioned after the last Saturday, you said it was kind of the same thing after the Augustana. Want to see how the team responds. How have you seen the team respond this week?
Yeah, it's been good. We've had a couple of good days of practice, and yeah, like you said, we just got to respond. Losses are going to happen in this league. It's a tough league, and we just don't want to turn 1 into 2. So it's going to be a big response for us on Friday.
Ty, the winning goal, did you know that you'd be able to knock that puck out of the air as it was kind of hurling towards you? Because if you hadn't, it would have been going the other way real quick.
Yeah, I watched it back a little bit. They those two guys kind of ran into each other. I don't think they really knew where the puck was, and I didn't really at first either. And I looked up and saw it kind of fall, and I'm like, oh, I could have a chance to shoot this in an open net, and was able to grab it, and the goalie made a pretty good save on it, and he kind of knocked it in again. So, yeah.
At what point did you realize that he was going to knock the puck into the net? Because it kind of the whole thing, it felt like it took forever to develop as it happened, but then watching it back, it happens real quick.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was in his glove, and I didn't know at first that it came back out and hit him on the way back out and then went back in. I thought it just kind of trickled in, but I didn't realize that he hit it in at first.
What's it been like for the two of you as you earn more and more ice time and getting more and more trust from coaches?
Yeah, it feels good. It feels good to, be a big part of a really good team. Just feel grateful that we can play in those big minutes and get the trust from the coaches and, have an impact on, a successful start so far this season.
Yeah, I think he hit the nail on the head with that. We want to be on the ice. We feel grateful that the coaches trust us and be in those big moments, and yeah, we just hope to keep it going.
I know you've only had 1 year of it, but what is the Robert St. Cloud statement to you guys? Really intense games last year, especially that Saturday game in this building got a little heated down the stretch.
Yeah, it's just another good team in our league. They're in-state rival too. We had pretty good success against them last year, so trying to take little things that we did last year and bring it into things you do this year, and we know it'll be a tough test like every team is in this league.
Adam, for you, in another month or so, you'll be in the World Juniors and starts in this building. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's really exciting. To get a chance to play in that in your home state, it's really exciting. Just got to keep ramping it up and keep building so it can be at the top of my game when that time comes.
What what has been the focus in that regard for you? I know you're trying to help this team win, but, you know, how do you put yourself in the best possible position to be ready to go next month, too?
Just making sure you're doing all the little things right, making sure you're being hard to play against. That's my game, being hard to play against, shutting other team's top players down. So making sure I'm doing that the best of my ability, and then moving pucks up the ice fast and trying to get up in the rush as best I can.
What was it like getting a taste of that last year? How was that kind of feel you as you get ready for this year?
Yeah, once you get a taste of it, you know you want to do the same thing and try to win again. So it's a big motivator for not only me but everyone coming back.
Is there much communication for you and Matt, between you and Max and USA Hockey, or maybe especially the returning players and such, as you guys get closer and closer to the World Juniors here?
Not right now. Just
Not right now. Okay.
keep playing your game, and then when the time comes, there'll be more communication there, but not right now.
Coach Moscow had anything to say after the game, after you swept them, you and Max the other couple of weeks ago?
No, he's probably a little mad.
Is that easier this year, going through the second time? With everything in college hockey, really, but is that balance between what you're doing here and that tournament a bit easier going through it the second time?
I don't think so. I think it's the same. I think last year, you don't really know if you have a spot or anything, so you're still working. And this year, you don't want to get satisfied or complacent, so you just got to, you can't take for granted that, you might have a spot or something. You got to keep working. So I'd say it's just the same.
Ty, you mentioned that the top line doesn't get as much credit as they probably should for their defensive zone play. We're all talking about their offense, but here's your chance. What do those three do to help out in the defensive zone?
I think it's just their smarts and their ability to use their sticks. I've played with Sam and Max my whole life, and I've been around their dad a bunch too, and he harps on it just as much as our coaches do in the D zone. And I think just them, how they use their sticks, getting sticks in lanes, sticks on pucks, just helping disrupt things. They don't want to play much in the D zone, so the faster they can get the puck back, the faster they're going to be able to do stuff offensively.
Do you guys talk about it? Because Scott just talked about it, when the leaders of the team do things the right way, and then that trickles down. But do you leaders talk about leading by example, or is that just kind of who this group has been?
I think there's a little bit of both. I think it's kind of what we've been doing kind of last year or so. But I think we also try to lead with our voices too, because that's also important, to give our input on what we think is the best. And the older guys too, they've had a ton of experience in college hockey, and that is very useful to everyone too.
What's it like PKing with Sam and Max?
I mean, they're really aggressive too, and we talk a lot about being aggressive PK. So, if like Max is using his speed to kind of pressure the D, that us as D, we got to be ready to be able to trigger and kind of break up those plays and get our clears. So honestly, it's really fun because we can be aggressive, and that's the style we want to play on the PK.
Perfect.
Cool.
Thank you.
Sweet.
I'm going to play.